Good morning. Merry Christmas, everybody. Curtis Wilkerson here with Inside Arkansas on the Pod Palace, coming to you again because the show doesn't stop. Now, we had a little bit of holiday fun yesterday with our Christmas wish list, the stocking stuffers for Arkansas basketball. So you might look at the title of this and go, midterm review. Like, what kind of teacher is giving a test, just putting out grades on Christmas Day? This kind of teacher does that. All right. We're at the midpoint of the season here. Not in terms of where the games are being played. They're not at 15 and a half or whatever for a 31 game season. But you're at that point where you've got the holiday break, one more tune-up in fairness to go before the start of SEC play. But we do our report card after every game where we just kind of go out and grade out the Razorbacks. And so it's a pretty good time for us, I think, to take a step back and look at the big picture as a whole, what we've seen so far, how these dudes are doing relative to our expectations, and have a little bit of fun with it. I've been doing this on Christmas Day for years, and so we're just going to continue the tradition here with Inside Arkansas. So as a reminder, it's done similar to the report card from a standpoint of these aren't like, I'm not grading Adou Thiero compared to Boogie Fland. It's not a player to player. It's an individual thing just based on kind of, and it's my grading scale. You guys might disagree, and that's cool. Put it in the comments what you think, how you would grade these guys out. We're just having a little bit of fun with it, but I just do it kind of based on my expectations for the guys coming into the year, what we've seen so far, what their roles are, and maybe what we have, expecting for them moving forward. So let's hop right into it and see what we got. We'll go through the 9 rotation guys, have a little bit of fun today. We'll start with Adou Thiero, who, I mean, he's got to get an A, right? He's been so much more, I think, than Arkansas could have imagined. The offensive switch flip for him has been awesome. It's the dude at Kentucky that averaged 7.5 points per game last year. And I've got the stats right here. He is at 17.6. Like, he's added 10 points per game onto his scoring average at Arkansas. He's just been so good for the Razorbacks. You thought coming into the year he was going to be your most versatile and impactful defender, like a multi-positional guy. He has been that. You thought he would be good on the glass for you. He has been that. You thought that he would be kind of the fan favorite in terms of his effort, the energy that he plays with. He's been that. And then now he's a scoring threat. And this is the clicking of his game that folks were looking for when they were saying, hey, if it clicks, if he figures it out, this is the guy that could be a first-round draft pick. Well, he's been playing like one for Arkansas. It was good to see him back out there after dealing with the flu against North Carolina A&T, and had a pretty good game. But my goodness, you look at him, you got a guy who's averaging 17.6 points, 5.7 boards for you, 21 steals. So he's second on the team in steals. He's blocking shots, leads the team in offensive rebounding. He's really doing a lot of positive things for Arkansas here. And honestly, he's become, kind of a star player for the team, but one of the biggest breakout players and breakout stories of the season in college basketball. Obviously, things to continue to work on and improve on. He's not even the best version of himself right now. What stands out, you look at the 3-point percentage, 27%. He's not shooting high volume. He's a downhill driver, an explosive finisher, but you need to be a threat, obviously, from 3. That way teams don't just back off of you. And we've seen that a little bit with Thiero. He's been able to overcome it so far, but 6 of 22 from 3. I'd like to see a little bit more volume, knock those down a bit more. He was a 32% 3-point shooter coming into the year, but hasn't had much volume at all. Can he kind of get back up to that norm while shooting a few more of them? That would be good for Arkansas. And then free throw percentage. He was like a 75% free throw shooter in his career at Kentucky. 67% right now, 48 of 71. He's getting there a ton, but he had the 2 games, I think, that stood out, especially the one against, was it Illinois? Was that the game where he got to the line like 24 times and wound up leaving 9, freebies there on the board? So 67%, you want to be a little bit higher than that, but overall, my goodness, how can you complain too much about what Adou Thiero's done? He's been great for Arkansas, and I'm anxious to see how they use him moving forward with a more healthy front court. Do we see more kind of jumbo lineups with Thiero playing some at the 3, and then you got Trevon and Aidoo on the floor with him? Obviously, I think he's at his best as kind of a small ball 4-man, but you can get creative with a guy like that. It's a good problem to have for sure. Boogie Fland, another guy. It's pretty easy for me. He gets an A. He's just been electric in just about every way. The best assist man that Arkansas has had in a long, long time. He's got, where are we at here? 74 assists through 12 games. That's crazy. Arkansas has had point guards in the last few years that haven't gotten 74 assists in an entire season. There are fewer than 20 guys in this country who are averaging more than 6 assists per game. Boogie Fland is one of them. He's second in the SEC behind Zakai Ziegler over at Tennessee. And then he's got a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. That's top 30 nationally. Now, listen, I am not always right with my takes. Sometimes I miss. I've missed a couple times this year, but I will be on the right side of history in the Arkansas doesn't have a point guard debate, because I said they did, and they do. He's been fantastic. A great shooter for Arkansas. Leads the team in three-point makes. He's shooting at 37% from beyond the arc. That's after was he 1 of 5, 1 of 6 against North Carolina A&T. He was up over 40% before that. A late clock option for the Razorbacks. He's been really good defensively. That was one of the things you wondered about, is how it was going to hold up on that end of the floor. He's been really disruptive, hasn't been overpowered or bullied in there. Bigger and better guards are to come, so the jury's still out on how he holds up for the SEC season. But, man, he's been really good. Areas of improvement, I think, for Boogie. For me, mainly just finishing around the rim, and that kind of coincides with being more efficient maybe against the good teams. And let me pull up his stats here in real time. But he's been a little bit less efficient. Now, he's scored at a high rate against some of the power conference opponents, but you want to see him kind of get that field goal percentage up a little bit. So let's look at it. Baylor, he was really good in that game. He had 17 points, 7 assists, 0 turnovers. Great. But just 5 of 13, so 38% from the floor. Where are we at? Illinois. That was probably, one of his worst games of the year. That was the first freshman game for Boogie Fland, where it's like, all right, yeah, he's not going to be perfect every night. But in that game, he was just 2 of 12 against Illinois from the field. Miami was pretty solid in that one, man. He had 18 points, 6 assists, a couple turnovers, 6 of 13. You live with that. I mean, it's 46% from the field. So that was good. Then that Michigan game, where I gave him player of the game, because he winds up with 20 points, 7 assists, 2 turnovers, does a lot of really good things there. But then you look at the field goals at the end of the night, and he was 6 of 18. Right, 33%. So want to get the field goal percentage up a little bit. That just comes with kind of being able to finish in the lane and in the paint. He's never going to be an above the rim type of finisher in the league, but getting to that floater game a little bit more, stop and pop and knocking down the pull up mid range. Those are all things he's proven capable of doing it against better competition. Will only take his game to a higher level, but boy, he's been good. I'm just kind of working my way down the overall box score on the stat sheet. DJ Wagner is next. A-, I think, for DJ. Listen, some of these are going to be high, some of them aren't, but I mean, Arkansas is 10-2 at the end of the day, and playing some good basketball right now. And I'm really happy for DJ Wagner. I am. If you look at his just basic stat line and you see 10.1 points, 3.3 rebounds, 3.1 assists per game, you think, okay, so he's basically the same player that he was last year. Not even close. He is healthy. He is more explosive. He really looks like the early season version of himself as a freshman at Kentucky. So undervalued for what he does for this team defensively. He's a really good perimeter defender. He's kind of emerged as a vocal leader on the floor, as far as I can tell, for Arkansas. He's great in a secondary playmaking role off the ball with Boogie out there. And my goodness, the man's shooting 41% from 3 on good volume. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Now, we've been on the record saying, yeah, I think he can shoot it better than the 28% or whatever he was as a freshman over in Lexington. But I did not anticipate that he'd be above 40% 3-point shooter, and be third on the team in makes so far. That's a really, really positive development. And his shot selection's been really good from there, not forcing a bunch. Secondary playmaker, I think, is the key there. He's not doing a bunch off the dribble unless he's getting downhill. His 3-pointers have come within the flow of the offense. High IQ plays, repositioning himself, running off of screens. and getting catch and shoot looks, and he's pretty darn good from there. So I would like to see him get to the free throw line a little bit more. He's only 8 free throws for a guy that gets downhill so much is kind of interesting to me. Maybe cut down on the turnovers a little bit. He'll mix in those 3 turnover games every now and then, but overall, another guy who's been really, really good for Arkansas. And you needed that. It was so important. You talk about like most valuable players, whatever, most important players. DJ Wagner was high on that list. Him just kind of making that freshman to sophomore leap. And so far he's done that. He's been a really good addition for Arkansas, just a key cog for the team. Big Z is up next. And this one's tough for me. I think I'm going to go C+. Like, if we were just kind of averaged out, like on the good versus bad, we go C, but I think he's been a net positive for Arkansas. I think it's challenging for me because he's really exceeded at least my expectations in some areas, left a lot to be desired in others. I could even be talking to a B-, honestly, because I think Z deserves a lot of credit for the way that he stepped up early in the season for Arkansas with Jonas Aidoo out. That put a lot of pressure on him to step up and deliver. And he did, especially on the offensive end of the floor. Great 3-point shooter, but he's really struggled to kind of find his footing since coming back from that ankle injury, which we talked about. I think he's one of his last 10 from 3, maybe, since getting back on the floor after that. But he's still shooting it. Let's see. Where you at, Z? Yeah, 20 of 43. I mean, he's 46% from 3, and he's still second on the team in makes. So that's really good, but you need that from him, and you need him to continue to provide that for you. It's shooting has been a great, major asset, right, for Arkansas. His rim protection has been really solid. He's a very impactful defender when he can kind of, stay in the paint and hunt, weak side shot blocks. And, he's pretty good there, walling up and guarding the post. But where does he need to continue to improve? Not enough rebounding right now, right? You're 7'2" and you're giving Arkansas 3.8 rebounds per game. That's exactly the same as your 6'4" guard, Johnell Davis. So need more from him in that department. More toughness, physicality inside, things that we know he needs to work on. And they just got to find the right coverage for him against middle pick and roll. They haven't found the recipe that works just yet. If you can find a way to disguise that, mask that, because that's the biggest weakness for him. And sometimes that plays him off the floor, that middle pick and roll stuff. You got to be able to find a way to overcome that because he brings so much value to you on the offensive end. But yeah, C+, I think I'll probably stick with that for Z. At the end of the day, though, you look at his stats and will they hold up? You hope that they do. But if he winds up giving you 9.7 points per game, then he's nearly doubled his production from his freshman year at Kentucky. Got to get those rebounds up, but he's 23 blocks. He's up there in the SEC in terms of blocks per game, and he's only playing 19 minutes per game. So, for the role that he's playing, he's pretty impactful in there. Just got to kind of mask some of those deficiencies that you're going to have with a young guy who's 7'2" and maybe doesn't move as well when he has to be drug out from underneath the basket defensively. Johnell Davis, oh man, this is tough because the expectations were so high for him coming to the year. Like if you just look at it in a vacuum as a player, he's done some really good things. I can't knock him too much because he's been really efficient. I mean, he's 46% from the field. He's 38% on good volume from 3. He's defending well. He's rebounding well at his position. But for me, at the end of the day, Nelly Davis was the number 1 transfer in the country. He was expected to be your best player and a go-to guy. And so far, he's really been nothing more than kind of a spot-up shooter for you on the offensive end of the floor while doing some good things otherwise. So relative to expectations, like I'm probably going to go C here. Still giving you 9.2 points per game, which is good. Again, I think he's being a little bit more aggressive and getting freed up and hunting his 3, which is nice. But we haven't seen any creation offensively. No mid-range game, which he was so good at Florida Atlantic. No real aggressiveness on the ball in terms of attacking. Now, he's being a good teammate. He's not being selfish. He's not chucking it. But I think you need a little bit more alpha out of Johnell Davis for this team to maybe reach its ceiling, because they can be really, really good with him doing his thing right now, the Klay Thompson thing. But for Arkansas to really max out their potential, I think that he's got to be just as much of a threat every time he touches the ball as like a Boogie Fland is for you right now. So that's what I'm anxious to see with Johnell Davis moving around. But like, yeah, I'm probably going to give him a C right now. He's averaging 7.5 shots per game. That needs to be at 10 minimum, in my opinion. In my humble opinion. He's averaging 9.2 points. I think that needs to be 12 to 13 minimum, right? And so, again, it's not get out of the rhythm of the offense and be selfish and really force the issue, but there are opportunities there for him. Have mentioned it many times over the course of the last couple of weeks. Sometimes he'll drive that thing middle and get in that free throw line area, right? And then what happens? It's usually a turnover for him. He kind of looks around, he gets caught up, he looks like he doesn't know what to do in there, and he winds up turning it over. Pull up and knock down that mid-range, because he's done it for a living the last few years. Add 2 to 3 of those per game, and then all of a sudden your numbers are all right up there where I feel like they should be. And we'll see if he does that. But then the big thing for him is just getting healthy. Thought he was on the other side of that wrist, and next thing you know, he's in a splint and he misses the game against North Carolina A&T. That's a big part of it. And maybe by shutting him down, going through rehab, getting him healed up these next couple weeks, then he's got the confidence. Maybe that's part of it, to go out there and be a little bit more assertive once they get into league play, because they're definitely going to need him. Trevon Brazile, man, let's go B+ for Trevon Brazile. And he's been an A+ the last couple weeks here since he's settled in and started to emerge. What a turnaround for Trevon. And we don't have to go too far into it, but just the new attitude, in a good way, right? Just in terms of the way he's carrying himself, being a really good teammate. He's just more aggressive. He's coming across as more of a team guy. And things like aggressiveness and physicality, they don't always show up in the stat sheet, but they do for Trevon. And his block shots, his rebounding, his offensive rebounding, his paint points, things that when you've looked at Trevon Brazile in the past, you feel like he should have more of, but he hasn't. And now it's starting to show up. So really been impressed with him. The way he's playing right now it's the type of stuff that makes a difference in a win or two in league play. I really believe that. Like if there were a war like there is in baseball for basketball, his would be up there for this team. I want him to see him. I'd like to see him continue to launch the three. Now he's been taking more lately, but only 3 of 9 so far on the season. And if you remember, one of my stocking stuffers for Arkansas was to just shoot more threes. Like, they're knocking them down at a good percentage. So take advantage of being able to shoot them for a change and let that thing fly a little bit more to get from 21 a game to 25 per game. It's really not sacrificing that much. And I think Brazile adding another 3 or 2 per game is a way that you can kind of find a few extra there. And I don't have a problem with that at all. I mean, he's a 36+% 3-point shooter over the course of his career. So him taking 2, 3, 4 a game, I'm unbothered by. And he gets those looks, and he's starting to take them a little bit more frequently, which is good. But yeah, looking at his stats right now, 7 points, 5 rebounds, 14 block shots. So he's second on the team right now behind Big Z, doing some really good things. And if he just continues to play with that type of aggression, like the shots aren't going to fall for him every single night, but if he's playing with max effort, with the talent that he has, he can still find ways to be impactful for Arkansas on the floor. Whereas, in seasons past, if he wasn't knocking down threes, he wasn't really bringing much value to you. And it's just a different story for him now. So kudos to him and kudos to the staff for being able to get that potential out of him. Jonas Aidoo, listen, I got to go, B for Jonas Aidoo here. You can't give a man an A when he says he's only 85% of his best, right? So like, he set the bar for himself to improve here. He did that, not me. He's got 15% more to add to what we've seen the last 3 or 4 games here. My goodness, he could be a really, really impactful player, because I think he's been really good here recently. Just a game changer for Arkansas when he's healthy. We knew that. It was frustrating early in the season when they didn't have him, because you knew the difference he could have made if he was healthy in that Baylor game. And even in that Illinois game, now he played, but it was his first game back in like 3 weeks, and he was gassed after 2 trips up and down the floor. Like, you wish you could run those back. You can't. Injuries are part of the game. But he is an X factor type of guy on both ends of the floor for Arkansas. I love that the touch is coming back around the rim. We're starting to see some more physicality out of him, getting impactful on the boards. Had his first double-double the other day. The rim protection is a big deal for Arkansas, and just his IQ, like we did a breakdown video of him, offensively, just the way he's able to kind of read things, feel double teams, find open teammates. And that's when he's not scoring. And then defensively, he really does change a lot for Arkansas in that pick and roll defense. And just his awareness out there, he's kind of that goalie underneath the rim that's communicating to everybody on the defensive end of the floor. It changes things. It makes you a better team in there. So, he's kind of right now, he's like the smart kid in class who he's got a bunch of absences, right? Like, he's been out. So, he's got it, right? He's got all the ability to get an A, but he's still trying to play catch up, from the work that he missed. That's kind of where we're at. But the best is yet to come from Jonas Aidoo. And it's a good development for Arkansas to start getting him healthy and acclimated back in there before they get into league play, because they definitely need him. A couple freshmen here. Carter Knox, C+. Hand up. Like, Carter was not as ready as I thought maybe he would be coming into his freshman season. Very slow start. The game was clearly moving too fast for him out of the gates. He's starting to settle in and find himself a little bit. Had the breakout game against Maryland Eastern Shore with 21. And he hasn't been great every game since then. Didn't play a ton against Illinois or Miami. But he's really picked it up since that point. But, you take that Maryland Eastern Shore game, those 7 games from that point, he's averaging 8.6 points, 3 rebounds per game, which is pretty good. He's hit a 3 in 4 straight games, which is a good development. He scored double digits in the last 2 games, including the start against North Carolina A&T with Johnell Davis out from that game. So starting to come around a little bit, which is good. You can see it slowing down for him some now. Big picture, though, needs to be a lot more efficient than 38% from the field and 23% from 3. 8 of 34 from 3. I'm surprised by that. And, I look back at some of these games and I see some of these open looks that he's getting, and I just can't believe more of them haven't gone in. I mean, they're just point blank looks, and I know how much he works on that shot. Mentioned it a million times, but like during that tip-off tour thing that they did in Pine Bluff, he was out there for like a full hour before they even got started with team warm-ups, just working on form, shooting, repetition. Brad Calipari's out there with him, just rep after rep after rep after rep. It's just got to translate over. He's got it in him. And so hopefully that happens, because if he winds up, going from 23% to 33% even in SEC play, it adds a different dynamic for Arkansas. They need him to be able to come off the bench and provide consistent minutes and production. And so from a pure stats standpoint, he's giving you 6.1 points, 3 rebounds per game in 16 minutes. I mean, if you get that from him throughout the course of SEC play, I think that's pretty good contribution. You just need it a little bit more efficiently, right? And then some things to work on defensively. I think he's been maybe better than I expected as an on-ball defender. Gets lost a little bit out there still. It's freshman stuff, rotations, communicating through screens, communicating through switches. There's been some hangups there. That's going to improve the more and more that he plays out there. But it is one thing that kind of kept him off the floor for a while, where it seemed like he had a little bit of a quick hook. A lot of that was because of things on the defensive end of the floor. So I'm anxious to see how he continues to progress, but definitely the needle's moving in the right direction for him, I think, so far. Billy Richmond, our last guy here. I'm going to give Billy a solid B. Now, my expectations for him coming in the year was that he would be the 9th man in a 9-man rotation. And my hope was that he would be able to find a role and get consistent minutes. He's been better than I anticipated, for sure. Really pleased with him. I mean, he's giving you 6 points and 3.4 rebounds per game, which is good. He hit a little bit of a downswing there, and he might have been under the weather for a while. But the last couple games, I thought against UCA in the second half, he was really good, and I thought he was very solid against North Carolina A&T. Love how aggressive he is on the offensive glass. Love how explosive he is in transition. He stopped settling for that long that 17-foot off the dribble pull up. I hate that shot. He loves it. He's not settling for it as much now. He's getting to the rim a little bit more, cutting, moving without the ball. The things that it takes a little bit of time for you to get comfortable doing that as a true freshman. We're starting to see more of that from Billy, which is good. Very aggressive and disruptive defensively. He's got to know when to reel it in a little bit. He's got some Jordan Walsh to him, right? Where he can really get a lot of deflections and steals and kind of just create some havoc defensively, but he also gets some fouls called on him because of that. And so finding that balance, I think, will be something for him to continue to work on. But if you think about it, like in Arkansas's 2 losses, Billy was the biggest bright spot. Like when the team just didn't look like they were kind of ready to play or ready for that moment necessarily. Think about that Baylor game. Billy was huge in that one. Remember, he got that tech and nobody cared because he threw the ball in there. Like he was just, just bringing energy, and that kind of stuff is infectious out there. Like he had the toughness. He was up for the challenge. The same thing against Illinois, when Arkansas was just overwhelmed, and Billy kind of kept him in it there for a little while in that game. So it seems like he might have a little bit of a knack or just a comfort level in the big moments. Well, Arkansas is going to need that, because think about it, like your first SEC game is on the road at number 1 Tennessee. It's going to be a hostile environment, physical game against a really good team. I feel pretty good about Billy Richmond being up for that challenge and being able to come off the bench and give Arkansas some minutes. So a good problem to have, I think, for a Razorback team that's going to need these freshmen to grow up in a tough situation in an SEC that's absolutely loaded. 10 teams in the SEC in the AP Top 25. 40% of the AP poll is the SEC. So night in and night out, these guys are going to have opportunities to grow up. But at any rate, we're getting out of here. Appreciate everybody for tuning in, as always. Especially, I'm going to be anxious to see how many people watch this on actual Christmas Day, because then I know you're the real sickos like me, who you just do this stuff 365 days a year with college basketball, with Razorback basketball. That's awesome. But I really do appreciate everybody for tuning in. The support, the engagement, the interaction, all been awesome. If you're not subscribed, make sure you get subscribed for us. The Inside Arkansas YouTube page. We're making a push for 2 million views in our first year of doing this. And I think we're going to get there. And I'm really, really excited about the progress that we've made and what's to come in the future. So everybody enjoy your Christmas. Happy holidays to you and yours out there. And if you're traveling around out here, hopefully it's not American Airlines. I heard their flights all got grounded. But if you need something to listen to during your delay or your layover, I got you covered. And we'll be back in the morning. You guys have a good one. It's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas on the Pad to Palace. We'll see you in the morning.